Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk, where we feature existing and upcoming professionals and developers working in the Bitcoin space. And today we have with us Shashwat Vangani, and who is a Summer of Bitcoin alum and is working on some exciting project around Bitcoin design, GUI, and making Bitcoin look pretty. So, welcome, Shashwat. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Raj, for inviting me and giving me a stage to share my experience.
Sure. So, you have been involved into Bitcoin space for how long? Like one and a half year now?
Yes, probably more than 1.5 years. So my journey started in 2021, like officially started with Summer of Bitcoin. So before that, I knew about Bitcoin, but not so much. Like I've read about that in newspaper and stuff, but obviously in the like not a very good light. Just a technology that something exists and
Right.
cu- something that is like different. I can say like a word which I can use for Bitcoin. Something
Mhm.
different that exists that is not like general technology or even say general finance. But then
Right.
after at that point of time, it was probably in my 11th or 12th at the time. So I was more focused on my academics and haven't had time to explore beyond that. And then at that time, it just went passed away
Mm.
me. I hope it didn't. I would have been rich by now, but no. The the
Yeah,
the
that's the same sentiment that every people have. Like, why why
the luck is
why did
the
it
luck is not
exist?
beautiful.
Yeah.
The luck is not beautiful and it's not much had at least in this time. So then
Right.
in my third year, like I was again introduced to Bitcoin by through the notice board of my college. When I read about the summer of Bitcoin intern that something like this is gonna happen and there's gonna be opportunity to
And this
explore
was in
Bitcoin.
2020?
One. Yes, 2021. Yes, 2021.
Okay.
Yes. In the middle of 2021, just June, July time.
Right.
So at that point, like because at the time all of my friends were applying for internships such as in Google and Adobe and stuff. But
Yeah.
I was always of the mindset that I don't want to do something that's done by the general population. I want to
Right.
do something different. So
Yeah. You
so
had
I,
the
I was like,
weirdness from the start in you. And yeah, and that kicked in when you saw the notice board.
yes, yes, that kicked in hard. So I just studied. I just understood Bitcoin like not okay. Let me be more humble in the sense. I understood as much as I can in the 10 days time that I had to prepare for Summer of Bitcoin, and
Right.
then I
And how
applied
did you
for
go
it.
about it in that
Okay,
10
so
days?
first of all, I knew that Bitcoin is based on technology name as blockchain. That's like definition of it, starting word of it. So I started with the study of a course of what blockchain is and how Bitcoin uses the blockchain technology and other technology and build upon it to create something that
Right.
uses some kind of like at that time I didn't understand what Bitcoin is actually about, but I understand it's technically some like what technically is it about. That helped me with my especially with the interview process in the Summer of Bitcoin one because then I was
Right.
able to not comparatively easily explain what something like say SegWit is example
Mhm.
after the three-stage process of the Summer of Bitcoin, which was basically first round of a technical question, second round of issue hunting, and third round of interview. I was able to clear all of them. So I applied for Summer of Bitcoin. I was able to clear all three rounds, and I was able to get start with my Bitcoin journey.
What was your background before joining Summer of Bitcoin? What were you studying and what were your major mostly?
First of all, I was studying in Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, IIT Roorkee, and I was studying engineering physics as my BTech degree. So my
Okay.
course started in 2018, and I graduated this year in 2022. A
How
year before
does an
2022.
engineering physicist become a Bitcoin designer?
Well, you can say engineers are jack of all trade and master of none, but it's always better than master of one. Before starting my like even say college, I was very much interested to do research. I wanted to become a physicist. But as soon as I came into college, I realized that the world is not limited to the world of only books and experiments and just say stars. There's more to
Mhm.
explore.
Mhm.
Especially our seniors like pushed us in a direction to explore instead of just focusing on us on a single thing. I
Right.
I think at the time I thought that they what they did was not so good because they messed up our attention or messed up our like focus. But I think it
Mhm.
was a good thing to do because then after exploring, you know that how what the world looks like, and in the later in your life you are not stuck with whatever your decision made that time, probably because of
Right.
lack of knowledge.
Right.
So in our first year we were very much pushed towards exploration. After exploring we realized that there are many things to do, but the one that's most interesting one and the most a vast one would be the world of computers, basically
Right.
computer science. So then me, my friend group, all of them started for studying for the computer science things and this thing. But at that time again, because I told you, I just don't like to do things that all of them are doing without actually knowing why they're doing it. So my
Mm-hmm.
friends were like studying for coding and stuff, probably because they wanted to get internship or jobs or get high paid job. But I was like, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do something that's not driven by motivation of doing itself, the thing itself.
Right.
So finally, that motivation, I would say, didn't come at till the point I was at the says I saw the Summer of Bitcoin poster.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an opportunity to use finally my computer science skills in a way that's interesting about something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about say money
Right.
or job or anything. It was just something I could do interesting about with it.
Right.
And finally, I just did as much as I can. Clear all my computer science concepts, clear all my blockchain, Bitcoin basics as much as I can in the 10 days, and then started with the Bitcoin journey.
Nice. And how would you describe how was the experience of Summer of Bitcoin, both the studying part and then the working with the project part?
So first of all, the first week of Bitcoin Summer of Bitcoin consisted of a 8 days crash course by Kelly Rosenbaum, the author of the Broken Bitcoin book. So he helped
Right.
us clear our basics again from zero to the point that where all of us, all of the people who are in this Summer of Bitcoin project would have a same background and same understanding of what Bitcoin is about. And
Right.
after clearing those, there were say I understood say 60% of things before that. That
Mm-hmm.
40% that he added towards our knowledge helped me to fill those gaps that cleared my understanding of what Bitcoin is, say, more on a non-technical level than on a technical level.
Right.
So it helped me clear my foundation, build a foundation of
Right.
what it's about.
Right.
After that 1 week of period, we were asked to choose a project to work on. So I had some interest, always had some interest in designing side, and I just like how great designers create designs that look so simple and so intuitive in the way they're designed that say even a child or even a say very old person just come and see the design and they know
Mm-hmm.
what it does. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very curious about how that process works. So I had some I said I read about some designing stuff and I like kind of tried to apply it. So I had some interest in that and I also saw proof of work in that. So
Right.
that's why I chose the Bitcoin Core GUI project, which is
Okay.
basically the graphical user interface of Bitcoin Core, and hence provides me an opportunity to apply my design interest and my technical skills to a single project.
Right. Right. And so you worked on that for like 1.5 months until the end of Summer of Bitcoin,
Yes.
and you worked with Christoph and many other Bitcoin design folks over
Yes.
there.
The
And
Christoph,
how was that experience?
I think Christoph and the design team came very later. During my Summer of
Okay.
Bitcoin journey, my mentor was Harold Rodriguez. You might be
Okay.
knowing him. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Harold helped me to understand what Bitcoin like. Just seeing the code base. Obviously, you have seen it. I was so intimidated by it. I didn't know how to compile Bitcoin. From that
Mm-hmm.
point to a point where I was able to confidently review PRs of other people and confidently able to tell that whatever the PR does is good or not in
Mm-hmm.
2 months time. He helped me come from that 0 point to like that great
Nice.
settle point. So I'm very like first of all very thankful to Harold, not only till like those 2 months. He very much like was a guiding light, and he as well as Jonas were very much guiding light in my whole journey of Bitcoin till now.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
thank you very much for them, like just kudos to guys.
Yep. Yep.
So
And
now the Christoph part, the designing team came around when we started to work on the new project, Bitcoin Core GUI QML.
after like graduation, you kind of like now what do you think? Like you were like gonna work on Bitcoin for considerable amount of time, or you have something else in your mind?
Well, at that time, I was more of wherever the wind takes me. I was just working because I wanted to work on it. I like to work on it, and I didn't want to do any traditional things, any job
Mm-hmm.
things. So I just at that time continued with my work, whatever I was doing. But the eureka moment, the light, that like the click
Yeah.
moment happened when I understood what Bitcoin is actually about, and I was like, now I will work on this, only this and nothing else. Was in November
Okay.
to the great. great conference that thank you very much for organizing. I was able to meet so many wonderful Bitcoiners who were basically like, okay, I would describe it later, but I've met so interesting people, so great, so many people who actually thought about what they're talking about. I again, as I told you, that I can't say take something on their face value. I can't believe on something until I
Mhm.
know that I need
What
to
you are
know. Like,
believing into. Yeah.
yes, in that sense, I'm very much like very aligned to the philosophy of Bitcoin. Never trust, only verify.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I was able to at finally at that point because I had some great people to throw my questions with, throw throw all of my skepticism about Bitcoin to him, and they are there and they were there not to question me on my say my belief on Bitcoin, but they were there to answer and clear my questions. All the questions that I could throw at them, people, all of them, they were able to satisfactorily answer me, and I was like, okay, you answered me. You're convinced me. You Finally, I was at the point that I was thinking that Bitcoin is not just an interesting technology; it's a revolution, and a revolution worth taking part in. And that's why
Yeah,
I'm here.
makes sense. It's gonna be a long journey, and it's we are all here for the long haul. So
Yep.
with that, let's go on to the juicy stuffs. And so,
Okay.
what are you working on these days? Two part of the question: what are you
Okay.
working on, and how do you get this work? Like, how are you getting funded, and how you are facilitating that work?
Okay. So currently I'm working on Bitcoin Core GUI, with Bitcoin Core GUI QML, which is the new revamped version of the old GUI, which tackles all the major problems that project have. And we have created a say as a system, a working system, so that all the problems, the old problems could be tackled with, and the new project would have the more flexibility that those problems or say a similar problems won't arise later in the project. The
Right.
fun the So this project, I've been involved with this project for say last, you can say last 6 months. When I applied for my funding at the time, I applied for my funding with the idea of working on this project as well as helping the Bitcoin core in general with my say reviewing skills and able to help basically help the system. So I applied for my funding in Super Luna, which is Gemini's daughter company, and I applied for them, and they helped me with the funding process, and they helped me get funded for the 1 year time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. And so this brings us nicely to our next segment of the talk where we will be diving deep into your work and Bitcoin Core GUI. So let's get started with it. Um, Here we have your presentation.
Today, I'm going to talk about Bitcoin Core GUI, the revamp. Before starting, let me ask you a question. All of the people who are listening to this, as well as Raj, to you as well. How many of you uses GUI on a daily basis?
The right answer would be like every day because without GUI, I think like the only way to use a computer is by terminal only, and nobody does that apart from crazy people.
Yes, truly. Basically, GUI is a thing that's how we interact with technology these days. But let me show you one application. The first one looks like this, and second one looks like this. Which one are you going to use?
The second one.
Yes, second one. So let me ask my first question again with a change. How many of you uses a badly designed GUI on a daily basis?
Depends on which site I go into. Nowadays, I think they are doing a good job, so most of the sites are good. But again, if I open up, but again, you're gonna talk about it. If I open up Bitcoin Core GUI, then I would consider that badly
Yep.
designed.
Yes. So the thing is, Raj, even in your case, who is a programmer who can focus on technology instead of say design. Even in your case, you are very muddled up with the final decision that you would use it or not. So in
Right.
case of say a general user, all the listeners probably who I think the ratio would be reduced by a very big number in case of a general user because he won't go to a badly designed site or say app until and unless it's like it's a necessity to go there.
Right.
There is no second option.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the current Bitcoin Core GUI. So the design of the our great Bitcoin Core GUI looks like this, which looks very outdated, as probably all of you might agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
And all the important functionalities that should be present at the top of it are hidden behind a bad UX design. And or you
Right.
have to do a big amount of digging to even get say a very generally used or very importantly very commonly used thing as well. The code or the Bitcoin Core GUI is just like a spaghetti. All the things that are interacting in the code are very mixed up. Some files interact with each other in a very confusing way, and there are too many logs as well. Logs lead to binding of the program in, say, running of a particular function, and that leads to potential risk of many bug as well. Because after implementing a new functionality or editing a previous one, it could lead to bugs that were not like intuitive to understand why they came. The,
Mm-hmm.
there's a problem with having a spaghetti code and having logs as well. The
Right.
Qt widget that the Bitcoin Core GUI uses as its main framework has a non-intuitive designing method, has very steep learning curve, and provide a limited number of layouting options. Because of its non-intuitive designing method, it leads to confusion and steep learning curve. It leads to confusion for many new people who would like to understand the technology and who would like to work on it. Very very tough to break in, to to
Right.
to cross that activation point and to understand
Right.
that
So
to
it's
understand
it's
and
much harder for new contributors to come in and make some casual contribution into Bitcoin Qt code base.
yep, because of the complications of how the
Right.
language works.
Mm-hmm.
And provides a very limited number of layouting option that doesn't go around with the new designing principles that came around, like, say, in the last 5 years.
Right.
And the one more thing that's very much lacking with the Qt widget GUI is the lack of designing team. So in any software's life cycle, there are three important units that are interacting with each other to get the application, or get the application in a state
Right.
where it could be used by everybody. The
Right.
first one is the user, which uses the app and send its feedback on what the app should do or shouldn't do to the designer, who then integrates his suggestions into the previously designed application and provides a coherent system of design with the new suggestion added. And then finally send this suggestion to the programmer who implements those and ship back the product to user, and the cycle repeats itself. With the
Right.
with the Bitcoin Core old GUI, there's no designing team, and that
Mhm.
leads to a break of this cycle and a stagnant procedure where the user are not able to interact with programmer, and hence there is a divide between what they want from
Right.
the project.
Yep.
There is no mobile support for the old GUI. So Bitcoin Core GUI requires a desktop environment to run it and doesn't allow to run natively on mobile device. A smartphone being the most used computer on earth, this isolates a large chunk of potential node runners.
Right.
This slide is very self-explanatory. Now the thing is that these all the problems, it's not like we were the first people to identify these problems. They were very noticeable from, say, a long time. But the thing is till, that there is a reason that this problem arises. Because the reasons for these limitations are, the first of all is that Qt and Qt widget were the most stable at the time of introduction of GUI in 2011. So they were the
Mhm.
most secure and most stable way to build a GUI. At that time, obviously, always for the Bitcoin, security is always over the functionality and, say, even use case. Security first. Bitcoin is always a
Mhm.
security first technology, and hence we were bound to use Qt and Qt widgets at the time because they were most stable and most secure way of doing the development. The new functionality that added later in the journey, because the Bitcoin was also developing parallel to the Bitcoin Core GUI, and the thing is that as new technology got developed in Bitcoin, that technology needed to be replicated in Bitcoin Core GUI as well, and
Mhm.
they were needed to be built upon the old code.
Right.
And the thing that I mentioned earlier as well, it was developers developing for developers.
Right.
Or the project never had a dedicated designing team, and hence the always the focus of Bitcoin Core GUI was to have a very super functional GUI, but the intuitiveness of the
Develop
project doesn't
application.
matter.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, theoretically, the programmers know what they want to do, get done from the application, and hence the
Mhm.
intuitiveness doesn't matter for them as much as for a general user, or, say, if somebody wants to get into the project. And hence it
Right.
was never the main focus of the project till now. So what we need now, we need a highly functional mobile device supporting and beautifully designed and free and open source software. And the new Bitcoin Core GUI is precisely that. the new Bitcoin Core GUI. The steps we took uh, to address all the issues that I explained about earlier. So the steps that we took to address all the issues that I explained about earlier were, first of all, we started a code from scratch, and
Mm-hmm.
our aim is to make it log free. This solves the issue of having a spaghetti code and remove the problem of having a bug prone software.
Okay.
We are working alongside the Bitcoin design team from the starting of the project, and that leads to having a great integration with the design team as well as the developer. So the divide between the user and the developer is reduced.
Mm-hmm.
We are gonna soon enter into the user testing phase as well, and that's gonna complete the cycle, and that's gonna bring Bitcoin Core where it should be. And we switch our
Okay.
UI tool from Qt widget to Qt QML. The main difference between Qt widget and Qt and QML is both are based on, first of all, Qt framework, but QML is mobile focused and and has a JSON-like syntax. This leads to mobile focus cross-platform or application that could be built easier on the design side, and all and because of its easiness to understand the language of how it's built, the learning curve has reduced by a lot.
Yep. Makes sense. And good.
Thank you.
I don't have any question so far. So, yep,
Mhm.
let's move ahead.
Sure. So the milestone for the new GUI that we are aim to achieve. The first one being uh, we have marked two milestones in the project in the process of building of a new Bitcoin GUI. The first one is V1, in which we are gonna make the GUI as a node runner, and this will be an internal milestone, not for the say final release. The V2 of the application will come with a wallet functionality as well, and will be included with the latest Bitcoin Core release once completed. So
Mm-hmm.
currently we have implemented the UI of the V1 for the application. That brings us to the demo of the project.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a
Now,
demo to see?
yep, we have a demo. Let me share the demo screen. Do I need to stop sharing of my slide for that?
Yes, you need to
Okay,
share another window.
sure. So this is the new Bitcoin Core GUI that we are working on. So you can see the about page as I click on the I button, the developer option, and from here you can go to the developer documentation. You can change the cache size. For now, all of these things doesn't directly interact with the backend. These are all implemented with the front end. Soon they would be connected with the backend as well. So the UI has been implemented for the V1. The backend
Mm-hmm.
is being worked upon. Pressing
Okay.
on the start, this flow that I'm going to show you right now is the onboarding flow that the user would see once he first opens the Bitcoin Core app. So
Okay.
it's very good access as well for all the audience that would be watching it, and for Raju as well. See the flow and try to understand what Bitcoin Core is about.
Mm-hmm.
If you are able to understand that, then we have achieve our goal with the designing.
Okay.
So first of all, starting with the design of the main page, this B would be replaced with the yellow
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin icon, which is the mainnet icon. This is the
This
signet icon.
looks like
That's why it's
detached now.
because it's okay. It shouldn't be okay. The thing is that this represents the signet chain, right? So currently we have
Right.
integrated the chain color instead of the mainnet color. That's why
Okay.
when you would open it as a, say, not built from source, but instead of open it as a just an application by using CI builds, it would
Mm-hmm.
be just work as if it's working on mainnet. So then
Okay.
you would see the right icon.
Right. Okay.
So Bitcoin Core app, be part of the Bitcoin network. Start. We first explain what this like running node is about, and why you should use this application. Strengthening Bitcoin, which,
Right.
the more peers in the network are, the more stronger the network would be. The block clock, which would be the main attraction for the first version of Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
Core GUI,
Mm-hmm.
which would represent. By the way, let me before I explain what is this, just see this block clock and try to understand what everything means on this block clock.
Okay. I can see the block height, and it's called block time, but I don't know why it's called block time.
Okay.
And then I can see three, four, five dots. I don't know what the dot means. I can see a ream. What it seems to me like the ream represents all the blocks in 24 hours, and each of the yellow segment is the time duration of two different blocks. and at the red one we are basically waiting for the next block to come, and the orange ones are the chain tape which can be reorged later.
Good, good. So you almost got it right. The thing is, it's block time because it's block clock, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not talking about the block height that's present above it. The block time because it's representing the blocks as a 24-hour clock. Technically a 12-hour
Okay.
clock, the way we
Okay.
have implemented it. So it's a 12-hour clock.
Okay.
The orange segments, the color of the segments represent their number of confirmations.
Okay.
The if a block is confirmed more than 6 times, like
Mm-hmm.
it has 6 blocks built upon it, it's yellow. Basically, it's confirmed. It can't be removed
Yeah.
theoretically. So the orange segments, the more the red the color is, the less number of confirmation it has. So the last
Mm-hmm.
segment has zero number of confirmation. It's also it needs one more block, like one more block mined after it to have one confirmation. The
Right.
orange one
It's
represent
not
two.
confirmed yet. The red is not
Yes,
confirmed
yes,
yet.
yes. It's not confirmed yet. So that's why the color represent the confirmation. And as you can see, the Bitcoin icon in it. So should I summarize it for the talk? What or all the
I think
things on
this
the
is
block
good.
clock list?
I think this is good.
Okay, good. So we explain what the block clock is about, which explains all the talk, all the things that we talk about. That every block is mined in about 10 minutes, average 10 minutes. It could be
Right.
faster, it could be slower, but that's represented on the block clock.
Right.
Next, we go on to the storage location, which we want to select, where we want to store our main storage data for
So
the
this
block
is
data.
like
Sorry.
.bitcoin folder, right? This is what the Bitcoin data folder gonna be.
Yes, it's gonna be where the Bitcoin data photo would be. Yes. So
Okay.
we can select a default location, which the app recommends. Otherwise, you can go and custom, and that would open a file system, and you can select the application. Next, we're gonna go on to storage. How much block data you want to store?
Mm-hmm. Now
If
this is the
now,
pruning and the non-pruning.
yes, it's pruning and non-pruning. So theoretically, a prune node uh, a prune node would support network as much as a non-prune would be. But the only
Yes.
difference is that if a new block wants to enter into the system, it also needs the old data to recheck the system. So if you're running a full node in the sense of not a prune node, like all the 550 say GB of the data, then
Mm-hmm.
you would be supporting new people who are coming into the network, and then you will be able to like
Right.
support the network in a greater way.
Yeah.
For the in the prune case, you would be supporting the network, but the main thing that you would be able to accomplish is that you would be able to verify all the transactions for yourself.
Yeah. Nobody else new who is joining new in the network will not be able to use your node to sync back the historical chain because your node does not have the historical chain.
Exactly. So we need full node as well, so that new people could enter into the system.
Right.
By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. If theoretically, if all the node in the world change their block data to a prune node,
Mm-hmm.
would no new block would be able to enter into the system? No new node,
Theoretically,
sorry.
yeah, because there is theoretically there will not be any record of the old historical chain. So the new node
Hmm.
will not be able to like recreate the old chain anymore. At that state can happen. So maybe that can be a hypothetical situation of 10,000 years later, where
Hmm.
the blockchain data is historically so old and so irrelevant that nobody stores it anymore. So maybe Bitcoin starts at 500 million blocks, and then people just basically take 500 million block as the granted and start syncing from there instead of the genesis
Oh,
block.
okay.
uh,
That's interesting
Theoretically
because
that's
say
possible, but right now, like, yeah, right now you can't be able to sync without another full node serving you the block data.
yep. It's very similar to torrent as well, right? It's basically
Yes,
torrent network peer to peer.
basically
You need
torrent network.
somebody need to seeding the file data to you and be able to get it downloaded.
Nobody has the file to see it for, then you won't get the file.
Exactly. Yes. So next we're gonna we will select the prune data. After selecting it, if say you are not satisfied with the two options that we have presented, say full node or say prune node, you can go into the detail setting and select the storage amount for yourself, and
Okay.
select if you want pruning or not.
Okay.
Then next we're gonna explain what we are not going to do, because the thing is the application won't be usable theoretically until all the block data is downloaded and has been verified. You
Right.
won't be able to use wallet functionality. You won't be able to say send you won't be able to send Bitcoin. If you are able to send, you are not gonna able to verify if they have received it or you have received something. You are
You
you
won't
know
be able to like send Bitcoin also, like you won't be able to like create transaction because the wallet will be disabled. You can
Huh.
still broadcast transaction.
Receive.
I don't think so. Like until IBD is done, the mempool doesn't activate. So your mempool doesn't see anything.
No, the thing is, I won't be able to see it, but the sender can see it, right? He can send me some Bitcoin, but I won't be able to verify that would I have
Oh,
do I
right.
have
Yeah.
received them or not.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yes. So, let me rephrase it again. Until and unless you have not done the initial block download, which is the 550 GB of download, even if you have selected prune node, you would still need to download all those data to verify all of them. Until and
Hmm.
unless you don't have done that, you won't be able to use the wallet. You won't be able to send Bitcoin, but you would be able to receive it, but not verify it. So
Right.
the app would be almost unusable until the initial block download has been done. We have
Hmm.
explained it here because the thing is 550 GB is a very, very big data in today's
Yeah.
terms. And hence
Yeah.
it might take say hours or even days to download all the
It's
data.
gonna take a week in standard internet and processing speed. It generally
Yes.
takes 1 week to get the full 500 GB downloaded and
Hmm.
verified.
See, so a very, very long time. And hence we have explained it here because we don't want to get user to be like afraid. What the fuck is why the loading is not completing? Why
Yeah.
it's not getting loaded?
Yeah.
So you can select transaction settings as well here, where you would be able to select map port UPnP, map port NAT PMP, and
Mm.
proxy settings if you want to do some networking changes. But
Right.
again, because these settings are something that somebody who understands all this technology would use, we didn't put it into the main path. We created the
Hmm.
main path for the general user, a
Hmm.
next hidden layer which you can easily access if you want for a power user which is enthusiast, and there's
Hmm.
another third layer beyond that, which is the developers level,
Hmm.
where you want to develop the technology, develop the
Right.
application,
Right.
and that starts the block syncing.
Okay. This is now signet syncing.
Yes, now it's syncing.
Okay.
So now instead of this bar, there will be a block clock that's gonna sync.
Hmm.
That gets accepted. Actually, I have shall I show it the PR that I'm working on?
That's okay. Like we just keep going on over this, and we want to conclude this in a focused basis.
Sure. So this is the way how the current main branch has been implemented. You can see this. You can experiment by yourself with this project using the CI builds that are present.
Hmm.
One second. Let me reshare my screen to to show what I'm talking about. Hmm. Present, share, window, contact, and share. Okay. Now we need you. The team that's working on this project is very small. We just consist of 3 developers and 2 designers on our team. And the work that we are doing, the shoes we are trying to fill is very big in size.
Hmm.
We're trying to create a project, create an app that's gonna be better than the project that's been created and worked upon for 11 years. And hence we need you.
Right.
We need more talented designers and developers, and if you want to experiment with the project that I just shown you, you can go to this link,
Hmm.
which is which is Bitcoin Core GUI QML's GitHub's repo,
We'll also
and
have the
download the
link in
CFS
the
for this.
description of this video so you guys can check them out.
Sure. And now, if you would like to join the design team as well, here's the QR code for it, which directs you towards the Bitcoin Design Slack channel, and you would be
Hmm.
able to interact with other designers as well. If you are a designer, you would be able to discuss with them about the Bitcoin related project. And also, if you would like to join in our effort of making this Bitcoin core go beautiful, you can join it.
Nice. Thank you
And
so
thank
much
you.
for yes, thank you so much for doing this nice demo and presentation for us. This really looks exciting, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are using Bitcoin Core, both users and developers, with a nice GUI, will find it very valuable. And if we can get them into working in mobile environment, then that's another like probable expansion of the platform use that Bitcoin can enjoy. So
So
thank
the
you so
thing
much
is
for
that
working on this.
thank you very
Uh,
much. So the thing that I want to mention before concluding about Bitcoin Core GUI is that I think this project can has a potential to revolutionize the way that we use Bitcoin today.
Mm-hmm.
Today, in the there is say there is no very particular way to run your own node into your own mobile. That
Mm-hmm.
means usually the mobile device, which is the mostly used computer, as I mentioned in the presentation as well, mostly used computer on this planet Earth,
Mm-hmm.
would be forced to use a SPV client and having a node running on the side if they want to connect it with there, or having to trust somebody else to verify their transaction.
Mm-hmm.
With this application, you were just saw that the pruning size, the average pruning size could be taken as down as 2 GB. 2 GB is
Right.
very easily available space that is present in today's smartphone. So we
Mm-hmm.
could run a proper full node on a mobile, and that's gonna first of all remove the need of having to trust somebody else node to verify what's your for yourself, and hence solidifying the Bitcoin's philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
and also the number of nodes that would be potentially running would be 10 times more than what is today. And it's gonna strengthen the network to such a level that it would be unbreakable. So
Truly.
I have high hopes for this project.
Yep, and we are very excited to see what comes out of this and all the efforts. So this brings us to the question to like all the newcomers who will be watching our video maybe a year later. Somebody who is like interested into all these projects and these ideas of Bitcoin and a designer, what's the best path forward for a person like that lies ahead? And what would you suggest, like what are the things that they need to do in order to get their feet wet and then figure out the rest of the path?
So for the designers, I would suggest that start with first of all clear. If you are just an aspiring designer right now, you should first understand the principles of designing and how designing happens, especially the modern web designing happens. After understanding those basics, you can directly jump into the project. You can interact with other designers as well through the Slack channel. You can come to know how the especially the blockchain, basically the Bitcoin based project gets developed, and you can start directly jumping into the project. If on the developer side, if I talk about the developer side, you have to understand the basics of Bitcoin instead of just a general technology. And then I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend say a book, like a very commonly recommended book would be Jimmy Song's Programming Bitcoin, which helps you to understand the with from scratch what Bitcoin is, and as well as help you to build build exercises on yourself and work by yourself to understand
Right.
what Bitcoin is. So
Yep.
this
And
are
it,
basically my two suggestions for designers and developers. Designers, jump into it. Developers, get your basics first, then jump into it.
yes, and it also like important for designers to understand a few part of the basics, like to understand how the Bitcoin user interface could look like to a user. They need to understand what an address is. They need to understand what
Hmm.
invoices is. They need to understand what a block is. They need to understand why some blocks are confirmed, why some are not. The difference between mempool transaction, confirmed transaction, replace transaction, all these kind of things that will pop up in the application that they need to present in front of the user in some form. So yeah, it will also help for designers and anybody in to get into Bitcoin. You need to have some basic footings done. You don't have to be a developer, like you don't have to go contribute into the validation part of the Bitcoin core code base, but you still need to understand the basic structures and the framework of the system. And yep, and that was a good suggestion. I would also like to add, maybe like if you're not very much comfortable with writing code, maybe you are somebody purely from design side, you can start with mastering Bitcoin and grokking Bitcoin, inventing Bitcoin. These are less technically intensive than programming Bitcoin. But if you are a developer, go jump straight into programming Bitcoin, and that's kind of like the textbook that you will need to cover. And thank you and for the suggestion. And with that, like we wanna jump on the section, like okay, so now you have done a good nice project you are working on with few people, you have done with your summer of Bitcoin. What does the path ahead look like for you? What does next one few years is your plan on?
So first of all, if I'm being very honest with you, I don't know. I think I'm a
I
person
think
who is
that's the
rather
only
flex.
right answer.
Yes, that's the only right answer, because I think it's the only right answer. But the thing is that even see in a general sense, I can't predict where my future lies. or say even anybody's future life.
Yeah.
If I gonna make some random prediction that this is something I'm gonna do,
Let
I
me
don't think
rephrase
that
that
would work.
question a bit. That is like a bit more answerable in a way. Like, which part of the Bitcoin industry you see like more interested in? You see like, okay, you want to contribute there, and that's the part where you feel like more excited about where things are getting built. Because a lot of things happening around the corner. Like there are things happening in Lightning, there are things happening in Core, there are things happening in other application layers. So, which part of this whole saga actually interests you most?
The most that interests me is like the thing that, because say for the Bitcoin, the thing that it currently lacks is having a great number of people joining the system. We have a limited number of people, and the number of people that are increasing is the rate is not much. And hence, at the outskirts of what Bitcoin is, to probably say a layer where technical and non-technical interacts. I'm very interested on that layer to
Mm-hmm.
able to bring people who are just who just see don't even know about what Bitcoin is, and bringing it to on this side of being orange pill. Say
Right.
orange pill is a far target, I know, but at least we can bring them and make them curious enough so that they would start exploring what Bitcoin is
Right.
actually about. And I'm very interested on that layer.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, that's one of the layers that Bitshala and many people who are working on Bitcoin education front is also interested in trying to bridge that gap between somebody who is curious but don't know where to start from getting them to started into it and showing some even if vague, then even if like not very crystal clear, still some kind of path that they can trace on their own. So this brings us to the question like so in last couple of years in India, we have seen a lot of people like yourself and many others who have joined into the Bitcoin space, and they just freshly went out from the college, and Summer of Bitcoin is single-handedly responsible for that crowd of influx. And so where do you see like the community, if we can say it at that point, like the developer community that exists in India, where do you see like this community can grow? Where do you see like how this community can get much more elaborate and can get much more active in solving two kind of problems? One is like figuring out what to do in Bitcoin and get them done, and second, figuring out how to get new contributors in and ease them into the space so they don't get like too scared, too intimidated at the start and like give up hope before they even start their journey.
So I have not actually thought much about it, but the one thing that I know is that idea always breed in collaboration. It can't be breed into like say isolation. So
Right.
the first thing that at least I don't know about other, at least that lacks on my side, is that first of all the amount of cross questioning, cross talking of cross throwing of ideas that happens with me and other developers in India. The only
Mhm.
time that it happened was say properly happened in say November when I met those all of the people, and say
Mhm.
that single interaction of 3 days like made me understood this much about Bitcoin. So
Right.
I'm just very like how can I put it into words? The thing is that the potential that conversations have, cross conversations have with people with like-minded people is like I can't
Very
describe them in
high.
words. It's so
Yeah,
much, very
it's
high.
very high. So yeah,
It's very high.
in terms, it makes sense to have this kind of conversations keep rolling in both physical and online form, right?
Yes. And the thing for the new developers, I would recommend that there's a Discord channel, Bitcoin for India Discord channel. Yes, that's the name of it. Bitcoin
Yes.
for India Discord channel. New people who are in, first of all, we have to
By the way,
make them
just to
understand.
make sure, just to a shameless shill, Bitcoin for India Discord channel is also the link of the community page of Bitshala. So if you can't find it anywhere, go to Bitshala and in the community section, just click it. It will get you to that Discord group.
So Bitcoin for India Discord group. First of all, we have to make understand people what Bitcoin is like in basics about it, and we have to like say all the people who are listening to this talk would come to know what that Bitcoin for India Discord group exists. If
Mhm.
and we have to create more medium of people to make them familiar with that there is a community there, and then they
Right.
can start exploring there. The
Yes.
old developers. who are say well settled into the ecosystem could help them got on board into this. And because they had the same problem, same kind of problems that they had when they started, they would be able to help them and understand them and
Yes,
just remove those problems.
yes, and it's a circular loop. And what we mostly need is like a platform where people can join in and a space where people can keep having these conversations. And yes, as you have already rightly said, like having conversation has a lot of value, probably 10 times more value than reading three books. And
Yes,
well, we both learned a lot in the November conference, and that's the read of all the people who participated in there. And hopefully, we'll be able to keep doing such kind of activities year long, over and over again.
you
And
have to. We have to.
yes, yes, we kind of have to. And
Yes.
so with this, we are kind of at the end of our segment. We touched about a lot of things. We touched about education, we touched about technology, we touched about journey. Um, I just want to end with one question. I know that question is weird and that question does not have an answer, but I still like to ask the question. Question is, what is Bitcoin?
What is Bitcoin? There are multiple levels that I can answer this question on. First of all, say if I start with a very basic level, what Bitcoin is, if in a
Same.
single line, I would just say Bitcoin is a revolution and a revolution worth taking part in.
Makes sense. That's a pretty much valid answer. With that, let's conclude this session. This has been a fun one, and thanks for spending the time with us. And we shall do this later on in much more depth about many different kind of topics. And thank you for joining us, and thank you everybody who participated and watched our blabbering. Hope you learned something and had some fun. See you later.